Okay. All right. We are live. Okay. Welcome to the Real Estate News Show. I am Amy Palvido, and I'm in the house with my friend, and we're going to be talking all sorts of things about morning. I will let them
Afternoon.
Yeah, it's afternoon, right? I'll let them introduce themselves. Go ahead, Mr. Sheedy, since it's later for you.
You're first, ladies first. Honestly, no manners, Amy.
Oh, no manners. Okay, all right. Maria, introduce yourself. Did she freeze? I think she froze. At least she's frozen in a nice pose because there she is. All right, Maria, can you introduce yourself? Maybe not. I don't know. We're trying to get her. There's you're coming in and out. If it's just me, I don't know. You're kind of coming in.
It's the same here. Same here.
Is it? Yeah, she's kind of coming in and out. All right, Paul, go ahead, and then
Paul Sheedy, CEO of Unified, delivering smarter buildings.
Delivering smarter buildings.
Delivering smarter buildings.
Yeah, that's your tagline. That's it. That's all you're going to say.
Risk reduction. I mean, where do I stop?
I know.
It's not about me.
It's not about you. No, for sure. Well, hopefully we'll get Maria back here so I can do Maria's introduction. She's like awesome sauce. I mean, she's great. So Maria is based in Canada, and she has been in the prop tech industry as a CIO for large companies like Manulife, and she was also part of on the board of BOMA in Canada, and she's based in Toronto, and she's now does startup advising for different prop tech companies, and one of them is Clarity Building Controls, and hopefully we will get her back. Hopefully. Let's talk through. So tomorrow we have our show, the Prop Tech and Insure Tech show, which we've been promoting for a little while to talk about how technology can reduce insurance costs, which everybody wants to know about. So let's talk through that a little bit, and hopefully Maria join us back, and if not, we'll cut the show off early. But so what we're going to talk tomorrow about there's lots of different kinds of technologies approaching different methods and ways to reduce insurance costs. And preview alert, we have one of the largest insurers coming on our show tomorrow. This will be awesome.
The largest insurer.
Yeah, the largest insurer. We're going to have a representative from the largest insurer in the world is going to be on our little webinar. It's going to be awesome. So the story out today was, or in the U.S. anyway, was we have the largest or a very large hurricane season coming. They're predicting more and more storms. We just got through the California wildfires, and then all these storms that we just had in Texas. No joke, larger than softball size hail last night. Wow. So it was a storm. We were fine where I was, but just north and northwest of us. And and something like that falls and hits you, you die. It's amazing how much destruction hail can do. But there's pictures out of here's a softball, this is the hail. And it was very large hail. So it is that time of year where we have hailstorms and we have hurricanes, and apparently we're going to have a very large season. I'm not sure how the insurance companies figure this out, or is it just the technologies that we're going to have to work through? I mean, something like that you can't do. We're just going to have to build bunkers that it doesn't matter what throws at us, we can survive it, right? I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's a little like Los Angeles. I mean, are you really going to carry on building wooden houses?
I know. Probably.
Three little pigs, straw, wood, and brick. You may just have to start moving the brick.
And
just better planning and thinking about how fires happen and all the rest. But
for sure,
I mean, it's not rocket science to break up forests and have those breaks. And I think maybe it just takes, and plus, look, at the end of the day, we have a lot of people who are still in denial that, anything to do with greenhouse, our burning of fossil fuels, which is just going up and up and up, has anything to do with rising temperatures. Well, it's been harped on about for longer than I can recall now, and no one's listening, and no one's really doing a lot about it. So your risks are going to go up, and we had a pretty terrible weekend. There was a bank holiday weekend here as well.
Yeah.
But we have had the most spectacular weather for about the last 6-8 weeks here. We've actually all said today that was a wonderful summer we had, but it has been the most beautiful spring I can ever remember. It was just been spectacular weather for like 6 to 8 weeks. But it's back to look. It feels like winter again today.
Jealous, Paul. Sorry, I took myself off the video because I'm wondering if that'll be better. But jealous of that spring that you described, Paul.
Oh, amazing. I mean, the soil is completely dry as a bone, which is not good for not even in June yet. But no, it was fantastic, and we need the rain that way. But look, I think the insurance companies are going to be looking at these global phenomena and deciding, where do we start risking? Where do we start looking at these risks, and where the long term weather patterns kicking in? I was shocked. I had somebody here from Doha with me last week, and I didn't realize in Doha, he said it's getting so cold in the winters now. We are having coats on, and it never got cold in winters, and he never had rain, and now they're having rain in Doha, which is extraordinary because it's. Yeah, and this is where we're having a big change, a really, really big change. So I think insurance companies will be looking at climate change and deciding they're going to do much. They'll start putting in the risk. I think if we're up to 13 hurricanes this season now in the US expected, then we're going to see a big upturn. I mean, from what I'm hearing, Los Angeles is pretty much uninsurable now. Is that what you're hearing?
No, well, I think it's going to be really interesting. Part of it. And I honestly, there might be a Republican governor in California after this mess, because it really wasn't. Yes, it was what they built, but it was also the response to what was happening, and the lack, and then the inability just by mismanagement is my understanding of the fire response and the lack of fire response because of how they just kind of managed. They just didn't staff appropriately. It's just kind of interesting that it was I guess a perfect bad storm, and it was awful. And even the people that built, so there was one, so on our show tomorrow morning, when we have our prop tech and insurance tech show, we have someone coming on from Cotality, and apparently one of the directors of CoreLogic was in the path of the fire, and he spent all this money on making his house almost fireproof, and it survived. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. He built it out of the right materials. He did the fire break around his house. He did all of these things, right? So his house survived the fires, but he's the only house in the neighborhood. So how good is that from quality of life, when it's great, I made it through, that's awesome, I got no neighbors. So
he didn't like the number. He didn't like the people number 22 anyway. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Yeah.
But yes,
I agree. But the thing is, but that proves the point: is you can put your fire breaks, you can do these things, and maybe we're going to see the insurers saying, actually, you're just too close to forest. It's the same as what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. Is that the more you do, the lower your insurance premium is going to go, and the more you can be transparent and illustrate that you've done all these extra lengths. I think that's where we're going to see a big change.
Yeah, it's interesting. And usually after the wildfires, there's mudslides, and so they lost some houses from mudslides. I don't know how protect against those, but it's definitely. I mean, there's a reason why there's insurance, right? And so and we need to mitigate some of that stuff. But I do think we're just like real estate, the insurance company is kind of ripe for disruption, and data can do that, right? And we can have a lot more. So it'll be a really fun discussion tomorrow. It'd be really, really cool to kind of hear everybody's perspectives, and there's lots of things that we need to insure, not just the property. We have lots of things that we need to talk through. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun tomorrow. It'll be awesome sauce. Maria, you caught us, you came back in. So go ahead. I sort of introduced you. I don't know. I mean, I talked about how cool you are, but you can introduce yourself, girlfriend, if she's there.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a delay. I'm having some, I guess it might be my internet issues, but I'm coming across delayed. You guys are coming across. I don't want to interrupt your flow, Amy, but can you hear me okay? Okay? That's why I took myself off video, just to see if that would change things a little. Can you hear?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you
me
now,
okay?
Yeah. Give a good intro this time, yeah? Not the one that Amy gave you.
You can hear me okay? Pardon? Yes. I can intro.
So give yourself a good intro.
Sorry.
Amy gave
Yeah,
you.
so yeah, sorry. So my name's Maria Yellow, and I've been in the industry overseeing tech for 30 plus years, and certainly enjoying the landscape as it's evolved, and now enjoying being a COO of a prop tech startup. I think very interested to see where the industry is going. I think there's so many digital opportunities with climate change and insurance. I think, Paul, you were just mentioning how much of the climate change agenda includes the tech-enabled kind of counterpart.
For sure.
There's a lot to do here. A lot more to do, I'd say. And that's why I think it's good to have some. It's good to have. I've been disturbed in my phone.
Well, I think we can accelerate the agenda, right?
Different views. What's that? Say that again?
I think she was saying we can accelerate the agenda at some point with technology, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And tomorrow we'll have some.
Yeah, I recently attended a climate change. I was on a climate change.
Go, Maria.
Yeah, I was recently on a climate change panel, and PwC sponsored it here in Canada. It was a great strategy that they presented. And I think what would be magic is to kind of have a column that is aligned with their steps to helping with climate change. And there are certainly a lot of insurance companies represented in the audience as well. So there's a big, opportunity, I think, that is untapped to some degree. To help both the insurance and
and the building owner. Yeah, no. So it was. Where was this, Maria? When was this?
It was in Toronto. Yeah, it was in Toronto, and it was real estate portfolios and climate change resilience. So certainly a great discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
Very, very
cool.
I
mean, I think it
was a great discussion and something. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think climate change, obviously, and insurance risk mitigation, it's just, I mean, they're both tied together at the hip, right? You can't really do one with, I mean, climate change from a energy reduction too. Obviously, there's that, but the insurance and mitigating risk is no wonder there was a bunch of insurance people in the audience, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that there's also the detection capabilities, like that artificial intelligence introduces or can imply, that can help with a lot of that. That I think the insurance industry should be more interested. I'm sure they are, but in terms of even detecting changes in climate, certainly can help with the predictive side. I mean, I don't know, Paul. I know you've been very involved with working in the insurance industry in the UK, but certainly I think those are all good things that can help with.
Yeah, there's a lot can be done. I think you're going to see the insurance sector waking up to the need for more data, the need for greater insights, not just the way they've been doing. I think we're going to see a lot of change, and I'm surprised it's taken this long. Certainly when I was with the UK government in 2018, when I met Ping An the first time, I was absolutely blown away by where they were. And I assume in a couple of years, the rest of the world would have caught up, but actually really haven't. And I think now, maybe the prevalence of so many disasters happening. I mean, you've had huge fires in Canada last year, as well as LA, what's happening in the hurricane season ahead of us now. That I think this is when they're going to start realizing they're really going to up the game, maybe another couple of steps. And there's some great people who have been doing this, as I say, taking data in well in advance of where the West is now. And they just got to learn from those and accelerate things, because we can't carry on with the levels of insurance premiums going through the roof. I mean, insurance companies famously don't go broke for a reason. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a greater prevalence of AI kicking in and data enhancement, etc. in the next years to come.
Yeah, but I mean, Maria, do you think a lot of the real estate companies are AI ready? I don't know if they're ready to deploy AI fully, right? I mean, my perspective is that probably not. I think there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done just on the data management side to be ready for AI. Even from a not even recognizing the data that they have, right? I mean, and the ability to collect it or maintain it, I think is a definite opportunity in the industry for sure.
The issue is very simple. I mean, the people who are really amazing with AI.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul. What did you just? So I didn't.
No, you carry on, Maria.
Hear that. No, I thought it was a good point. I just couldn't hear it that well. Sorry, Paul. But I think you raised it's an excellent question that you ask, Amy. I think everybody's asking that of most audiences about, kind of level of engagement and adoption and strategy. And you're absolutely right. I think data governance and data management strategies are at the heart of all of this. And certainly they need to be in place, or that needs to be in place. I think there's what I'm seeing is varied adoption levels depending on size and budget, because right now it's what can they afford to put in place and to evaluate, even from an experimentation perspective. I certainly think that there's maybe too much caution. Things are moving fast, and I don't know, it's always kind of that, how fast should the industry be moving? But I do think there's a lot happening, and it's going to continue to explode. Look at agentic AI is already out there, and and I think agentic AI is really going to change the industry significantly. So I do think there needs to be more experimentation, but the challenges are that small to mid organizations don't have money to invest or experiment because they're still struggling with like modernization and data, to your point, right, Amy? Like they need that in place. So where are these buckets of funding for some of these, transformation initiatives, let's say? Maybe vendors need to offer more proof of concept alternatives. Maybe there should be more incentives, like say insurance companies, even, and offering incentives that maybe partner and say, okay, I'm sure the incentive side of implementing innovative practices could certainly help. But I think that there's a lot happening at the government level. Here in Canada, I don't know about the UK or the US, but I think there needs to be more of that.
It'll be interesting. I mean, well, I'm going to say the US government doesn't move unless there's a crisis. So it's bothersome now. It's not at crisis levels. And so
because Mar-a-Lago hasn't flooded yet, Amy. When Mar-a-Lago floods, then we'll see action, okay?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, it truly, we have to wait around for it to get so awful that we finally actually do something. Even though people have been crying in their beer over their insurance premiums for the last, 5 years. I mean, it's been doubling and it kills deals. You can't even execute on a deal because the insurance costs you so much. And then I think there's another story. One of the ones we were going to talk about was basically the home sales at the lowest level since 2009 in the US. We're at this breaking point, and I would venture to guess home sales, not only is it an interest rate problem, but it's also an inflationary insurance problem. Homes are, even on the home side, insurance is getting expensive, and people aren't able to buy them. And so obviously we've been waiting for the prices to correct for a while, but now it's kind of here. I mean, prices are dropping finally. There's no way they were going to be able to stay at the levels they were at 7%. They were at like 4% prices, but it was 7% of what people could buy. Eventually, they were going to have to correct. It
doesn't work. The thing is, you can't get anybody on the ladder. This whole circle of life of getting on the ladder, getting up to, and then dying, of course, but you can't get on those ladders. I mean, it's just, I look here in London and it's all we talk about. In fact, I was at a great meeting last Monday week with a fantastic member of parliament and a professor on housing. And there's only one country in the world, Uruguay, that don't talk about housing as an issue. That's the only country in the world. It doesn't matter what country you pick at.
Really?
It's a massive problem because what we've allowed happen over the last decades, especially the last 2-3 decades in particular, we've allowed house price inflation to be way off what inflation actually is. It's probably, I know in London it's about 350% above what inflation is in London. And we've allowed that to happen all the time. And until you get to a basis where no matter where your salary was and that same job 20, 30 years, you have to allow that proportionality. You have to allow for proportionality of housing to be available for everybody along the whole salary levels. We've failed completely. And at the end of the day, this is where, no democracy is going to work. No party is going to say, I'm going to bring all the house prices down because you might as well shoot yourself in the foot because you're going to kill half the voters, the ones who are particularly responsible, the ones who actually vote, etc. The Conservative Party were always successful because old people always voted for the Conservative Party. Now they're all dying out, and the next generation haven't got to that same philosophy. It's why they're falling apart right now. But it's a really big issue, and the only country in the world is Uruguay that don't have this issue.
I would love to go down there and figure out what the hell they did.
I am.
Oh, you are? Oh,
no,
great.
I was so fascinated by the speech last Monday. I was like, wow, I didn't know this.
That is crazy. I mean, so the problem was, and this happened with apartment renting as well, where we were expecting so rents can keep pace with wages, right? Whatever that is. So the payments, if they can keep pace with wages, you're fine. Right? If wages are rising and everything is rising and everything's singing kumbaya at the same rate, like you're saying, you're fine. But then what happened is that the expenses got out of whack. And so then your rents had to cover, but the wages weren't rising as much as the inflation around all the materials and all the other things you had to buy. And that's when we got in the pickle we got in. And so, then things have kind of corrected a little bit, but yeah, it's a very difficult problem. And I think it took a little while for, I think there was no inventory. I mean, you have this problem when you have everybody who has a good portion of the United States has mortgage rates that are they're sub 5%, right? So all of those people aren't selling. Like my dad has a home in the fours. He's not going anywhere. I mean, he's like, he'll rent his house before he'll sell his house. So that decreases the inventory, which you would think would raise the prices, but it's having an opposite effect because there's just no buyers, right?
The whole market has to have a complete correction. In fact, I think the big thing that has to happen is there has to be a long-term vision for all governments to realize they've now made it impossible for the Gen Zs and whatever to come along and ever buy houses. Unless the whole issue is, as my estate agent said to me, the only people buying houses in London, Paul, are people who have inherited money. And if you can never get on the housing ladder in the first place, you can never inherit. And that's the whole issue here. I actually think it's a much bigger social issue than we're actually, really taking on board. But a change has to happen, really, massively.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not going to be a change that anyone's going to have to backside the balls to go and actually do, because you're going to really upset most people. But it's something that has to happen. I mean, as I've said before on the show, it's that we're living longer, we're taking too long to die, and medical care costs too much now. When we came up with pensions in the 40s and 50s, you were retired at 65, you were expected to be dead by 68. That doesn't happen anymore. That's what that's how the whole statisticians actually.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. You die 68, it's like you died so young.
I know. Don't even say that, because that's right around the corner for me. So don't
listen, I call myself a coffin dodger, Amy.
No, I really plan to live to be 120. So I got a long way to go. So I'm just going to like break all the insurance model, like actuary things. That's my goal. That's my goal is to live to be 120. But as long as I look like this, 120, like I gotta stop aging.
There's loads of Botox.
I know. Just shoot myself up. Like, let's just keep going. It'll be awesome. It'll be great. All right. So I don't know what's be interesting to see. I think the one interesting story was every time I hear these stories about on the office side about all these vacancies in office, there's always an accompanying story about, oh, let's convert it to residential. I hope that dies. I hope that whole, I don't know how those conversions to multifamily, that just sounds like brain damage to me. And but they still live. Like people are still converting office buildings into residential, and there's like a 20% vacancy in a lot of the downtown. That was the article saying in the downtown central business districts, it's at 19.2% across the US of office vacancies. So that's not sustainable for those office folks. So it'd be interesting to see if more of those conversions happen, but someone's got to figure that one out because it's crazy. Hey, Maria, she's here.
You know what, Amy? Office vacancies, the CBRE recently reported office vacancies kind of stabilizing. Interesting, yeah. Right? Across Canada. Yeah. And they see, because of interest rates, they see if the interest rates going down, they see office somewhat recovering, especially with back to office mandates growing. I think that's happening in the States as well. I mean, certainly I've heard. But it seems to have affected. They are predicting an undersupply of office space because construction is somewhat stopped from that perspective. So the construction funnel has slowed down, and so they're predicting an undersupply of office space, I think, in the fourth quarter. So vacancy is getting better, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
That's just recently. What CBRE reported in their outlook, right? Yeah. But see, there's an oversupply of condominiums.
Oh, well, yeah. Was that what all those cranes were in Toronto? Because you had a lot of cranes. Y'all had a lot of construction happen. Was that condos? It's just so funny how real estate developers, nobody can time markets. There's always an oversupply or an undersupply or something. It's interesting.
Of the demographics.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to see how things, well, and it's just the nature of the beast, right? Developments take so long and preferences are changing so fast that they can't kind of keep up with what's happening and what type of real estate. But the undersupply of office.
Well, and tariffs are certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, tariffs are certainly influencing behaviors, right? And changes in the uncertainty of tariffs, let's say, and what that actually, and I think there's a lot of organizations that are using them as excuses as well to drive change or to drive prices up or whatever the case is. So people are actually, not or not involved, just kind of a waiting game to some degree. But I think they suspect that will change in the second quarter, third quarter. But anyway, those are predictions. Outlooks always tend to change.
Yes, for sure.
Are you waiting until third quarter to become the 51st state, Maria?
I know you're not there, Paul, so I know that's humorous. But anyway, the CIBC, I think, head of Outlook Economic, I recently attended a luncheon, and his outlook, our Canadian dollar is kind of sad right now, but he doesn't suspect that will change until 26. But he does think the economic outlook for real estate is very positive later this year, like fourth look very positive for office and retail. Isn't that sad? I think that there's just a transformation of retail, and so it was interesting. But tariffs continue to be this, this underlying what's going to go on and how are we going to react. No mention of the 51st state, because that can be.
It's all right. Charles is over there today to save you. Okay, he'll give a blind speech, and Trump respects him. Thank God.
Yes, he's visiting. Yes, there's a lot of mixed reviews on that one, but Carney won, so you were a party supporter, Paul.
100%. Amazing man. Yeah, fantastic guy.
I'm apparently not keeping on.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
No,
but y'all fill me in. Who's Carney?
Yeah. So anyway,
fill me in.
Mark Carney, Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada.
He's the new Prime Minister. Oh, after Trudeau left. Okay, all right. Now I'm up to speed. All right, I'm good. So, all right.
But he worked in the UK and was, I guess, gained some following, and Paul supported that, right? He was
governor of the Bank of England. He was the first. Yeah, I think he was probably the first foreigner who was governor of the Bank of England. But he did 2 terms of it. He did 8 years. Highly respected, very articulate, knows his stuff inside out and backwards. I mean, this guy's he's a different league. Yeah. As I said back then, many weeks ago, he'll run rings around Trump. That's for sure.
Well, he's going to have his opportunity to run his rings. I don't know. Yeah, but the tariffs are.
Well, Amy, he's already had an interview. Not to make this a political conversation, but he already had a good interview with. It was televised. It seemed very positive. So I think you're right, Paul. Trump seems to respect him, which is a great thing.
Yeah. I think it's it'll be interesting how each country. Look, I don't know what he's doing. Like he'll threaten a tariff and then he'll pull it away, and then he does this dancing. It's like it's a boxing match, and then there's a new person in the ring every 5 seconds. I don't get it. I really don't. But nobody likes uncertainty. No one does. I mean, even on the U.S. side, we're like, what the hell?
Yeah, the analysts certainly don't.
Yeah.
Exactly. The analysts don't, and no one seems to. And from a basic consumer level confidence, people are concerned. Those that don't really even understand the landscape, it's even more. But at the analyst level, I think that's still the threat. I think that's top of mind threat.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
From a real estate perspective. But
and like with this uncertainty, one of the big German banks who have sorry. So one of the big German banks have about 4.7 billion in loans of commercial property in the US, and they've decided that's it. They're stopping, and now they're trying to get rid of the loan book from America. And we cannot deal in a country that has this much uncertainty. And this is the big external problem. And I know it plays very well, this uncertainty, this bravado in the Oval Office, with everywhere from Cyril Ramaphosa last week to Zelensky to whoever else shows up. But last week he put a 50% tariffs on the European Union, kicking in the 1st of June. And then this morning or yesterday, he decided, he's going to delay it till the 9th of July. It's this sort of uncertainty. People then panic and they'll overstock, they'll understock, they'll stop trading.
Yes.
You can't run a business like this. And I don't know what the final outcome is. And what I don't think he understands is that how globalized the supply chains are.
Right.
This idea that he's going to find 350,000 Americans in the States to start putting iPhones together is just bizarre.
He's deporting anybody who could work in the manufacturing lines. I'm like, no way. But I don't. He is trying to remake America policy for sure, and he and he's sticking with his guns. But I don't. But that's the big miss, I think, is like he doesn't understand. Apple is not going to bring all their manufacturing sites over to the US to make iPhones. Like that crap ain't going to happen. And nor can it happen at the speed that he thinks it can. Like there's no way that somebody's going to uproot a whole entire manufacturing facility with regional suppliers and all this other stuff and then move it to America and start making stuff in less than 5 years. Like that just crap just does not happen. And so I don't, I don't get it. Yeah. I'm kidding.
It's a great thing that Americans are not making trainers anymore, and it just isn't going to happen. You're not going to start manufacturing trainers. And you can talk about robots. You can talk about, there is intricacies. There's a whole supply chain, and you got to try and make an iPhone. I'm sorry, but all of the components are pretty much in Shenzhen. Okay, right. Anything you want to find is in Shenzhen, and you can't go and rock up to something.
I do believe that.
Go ahead, Maria.
Go on.
But I don't think that approach, like, you always look at things to make them better, but to make them more cost effective. But, if he moves, like, let's say the iPhone manufacturing to the States, you're going to end up with a $5,000 iPhone or something that is unaffordable. I think that's the issue. Like, yes. I'm not really, that becomes more efficient, right? Like I think, that's the issue. I don't understand the root of all of this and what the outcome's going to look like, right? Because, I mean, the average American won't be able to afford the phone. I mean, let alone anybody that's buying one, but outside of the US. But I think that's kind of interesting. But I do believe in improvement, right? Like if you're looking at a process to say, how can we make this better, is all about like being more efficient, but to be less efficient is where I live.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to
behind this, right?
We'd have to I mean, industrial real estate would have a boom. I mean, if we started bringing onshoring all this manufacturing, start looking at those industrial REITs, because they're going to be busy, and we're going to have transportation.
But your cost of labor is too high. Your cost of
parts is I know. It would be too high. I can't. It's an interesting dilemma. I mean, there's some things you can onshore, but things like that where they just have these entrenched supply chains, I just can't imagine that just easily gets uprooted and moved. It's kind of a difficult thing.
Without significant impact, impact. Yeah, that's I kind of get.
Yeah,
I get concerned about all that. So I think we're back to what are the tariffs doing for all of us, and
the tariffs are
It's interesting. It's very interesting how this is impacting the process. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the issue with all this tariffs is that the only people it's really affecting the most is the Americans in terms of inflation. Mm-hmm. Inflation is going to go up. You can't bring interest rates down when inflation's high. Right. That inflation is going to cut into the excess money in anyone's wages, which means property is going to suffer.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if we wanted to cement that we were going into a recession, he's executing that playbook, right? I mean, it's like the uncertainty adds any sort of instability to our very fragile economy where we were sitting, like we were teetering, right? I mean, we kind of made it through COVID and we were kind of hanging in there and we're doing all these things. Now, I don't agree with all the stuff the Democrats did, but this mess, like just coming in and just blah, and I don't think anybody is welcoming any of that. And so and we were teetering on. It was difficult, but we'll see. I think it depends on the real test is, what do the banks do? Like, will there be lending upticks in commercial real estate? And if there are, that saves the day. Like if there's people putting money into lending because the US market, they think is just going to survive whatever this insanity is and they'll be just fine and it's going to be okay. That's the real bellwether of whether we make it or not, is the lending, the community. Are they lending? And they're starting to. I mean, there's more and more commercial lending happening on the commercial side. There is, and multifamily, obviously, which is always what happens. Like when there's a hard time in the housing market, multifamily lending kind of ticks up because they think, well, people got to live somewhere, so they're going to live in apartments, right? So it'll be interesting to see, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
it needs a reset sooner rather than later. I don't think we can carry on with this uncertainty of like 50% tariffs gone. I mean, I don't know how, but the UK managed somehow to be the first and only country to sign trade deal with the US, which is great. But it's not, it's only one country out of many.
Very true.
But the problem is, the longer this goes on, I hate to say this to you, but the longer this goes on, the more the credibility of the US is going downhill. And this
for sure.
is a big issue.
And like at this point, I don't think anybody believes anything he says. Like, I mean, he's like, he had this really cool leverage position. I'm going to do blah. And then he comes back and then he pulls off because he did, because he said he was watching the bond prices and he was watching the 10-year treasuries and he was watching kind of the US dollar, and he had it, and so he had to pull back because he was pushing too hard. And I don't think what he realized was, yeah, it's going to happen every single time you threaten a tariff. All of that stuff is going to push to the edge, and it has impacts and it has consequences, and you just can't throw that crap out willy nilly and think that nothing's going to happen. There's no repercussions from it. It's definitely an interesting time. First of all, I did not see this coming. I did not see the tariff wars and all of this amount this fast. I really think, like, next year, 2026, we come around to the midterms and he's a lame duck and there's nothing he can do. So that's why he's pushing so hard in the first 2 years to get all of this stuff done. And then we'll have to slowly unravel it over the next kind of couple of years, but some things will stick. And that, I guess he thinks this is legacy. I don't know. I can't read the dude. I can't.
What's really strange is that, one, we lost a prime minister because of the bond market as well. The amazing Liz Truss. Joke here, she didn't last as long as a lettuce. But again, the bond market took her down because she came up with this budget and the bond market went BS. And she was gone in no time. The other thing is, what's strange about Trump is that he's got Howard Lutnick, who was the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, huge bond dealers. And he knows how powerful the bond market is. And I'm thinking, you're one of Trump's closest people. So why are you not saying, no, the bond market is going to react like this? It's strange. But I think I saw statistics last week that when you take Elon Musk out of it, his cabinet are worth $60 billion. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Wow.
And I don't know if you've seen the news today, but as of last night, the Trump family are going $3 billion into crypto now.
Oh, they are.
The great thing about Trump is that he doesn't even hide.
He doesn't even hide. He just kind of tells you. Well, because of course, if he says it, then he gets an artificial bump because people will follow, and so then he ain't stupid. It's kind of technically called stock manipulation, but it's a crypto. So I guess
this is nepotism. This is the billionaire bros all playing the game. But
yeah. No.
It's the blue collar workers who've been voting for him, but they're literally the ones who are going to see at the end of this 4 years, oh, what did we do? But anyway, but as I say, the whole thing is this is the impact. I mean, the less money you have in your pocket, that is what's going to be the biggest impact on property in the US. And employment and offices will be less and less full. And I've been saying, I've been saying this. I'm harping on this forever and ever day. And we know we don't agree on this, Amy, but I've been saying get everybody back in the office. Just get back to the norm that was there. You didn't support local businesses. You just want this whole infrastructure that's been built over decades. So, well, hey,
No, you can't convince me, Paul. You can't convince me. I've been a remote-only company.
So Gen Z. That's the problem with you, Amy.
No, I am not Gen Z, but I have been remote-only company for 6 years, and I don't. You can't get me there. I don't know. I like my 3-step commute to my desk. It's awesome, and my coffee's right around the corner, and I don't know. But there's an article talking about if you're going to convince employees to come back to the office, you're going to have to roll out the red carpet, man, and a Top Golf station and slides and childcare and all these other different things, because they're like me going, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I can stay at home. So I think it's going to be interesting what the office market is going to end up having to do in order to get people there, right? I mean, it used to be you put in these fancy fitness centers and nobody was in there, and then they stopped doing fitness centers, right? And then they had this, that, and the other. But it might be, I don't know. I don't know how you get, unless you got, you have the office where everybody's supposed to work and then you house them all upstairs. I'm not sure how you're going to get people to go back to the office, Paul. You slave driver. I feel for your employees.
I'll get all my people back. That's it. End of story. Get your Amazon package, drop to the office.
Yeah, exactly. Get your butt here. You don't have a job. Yeah.
Are you 5 days in the week, Paul? 5 days in the office, Paul, or what?
Hardline.
What are you? What is?
5 days? Small, shitty.
5 days. 6 if I could.
Oh, your poor employees.
That means you'd never hire from Canada and accept remote employees, Paul. Is that what you're saying?
Only with you, Maria. Only with you. I do have a few offshore. A few special cases, but
So do you have
creativity? I like the creativity. I like talking.
I do miss that about being in an office, right? For sure. And you see the people, the new workplace strategy people. That's like a new job where they do workplace strategies. This is like, I think it's just like, okay, what can we do to get them in the office? That's what workplace strategy is, right? For sure.
I wish it was a new and younger recruit, because there is a lot of focus on improving the experience to make it, compelling to come back to the office, right? So it isn't, because it can be in some cases a choice or some kind of work arrangement, but commuting is tough in Toronto, to be honest. If you Toronto or Vancouver, it's very difficult to get to the downtown core. Now, Microsoft has a huge downtown presence, and go back to the downtown core from a work perspective, but they don't have a 5-day in the office strategy, let's say. They have kind of hybrid approach. So, even so, it's a beautiful building.
Yeah, I mean, it's yes. I think, can you get the what's in the office, can it not be replicated on Zoom or in a Teams meeting? And I think those impromptu meetings where you just happen to be walking by somebody's desk and then you end up talking about something that an idea is born from. Yes, you can't do that via Zoom or scheduled meetings, right? You can try and do it as best you can, but that's, I think, the one thing that people, and I do miss the camaraderie of being around employees and having a good time and talking through different things. And we're in, that is what the office environment brings. And so if you're especially in some sort of tech company, which is really hilarious, that I think in the US, the most people that are leasing office space are AI and tech companies. And it's because it's definitely creative and we have to get together and think through issues and all this other stuff, right? But you wouldn't think that AI wouldn't need, but yeah, they're one of the biggest office leases at the moment. Are tech and AI.
It's funny, you're bringing up some great points. I think being in person, real estate is a relationship business, right? Everybody's been used to transacting, either whether you're space or property acquisitions or development. It requires a lot of that, round the table handshakes and visual tours. And I don't know if that is a negative, but I do think that there's so many other compliments. Like, I've never met you in person, Amy. I've never met you in person, Paul. But the ability to meet people virtually, I still think it augments the network and the opportunity to work differently. So I think the compliment is bringing both of those together. You don't lose the person, but the virtual certainly, I think, added some great benefit to the real estate industry too. The globalizing of the industry, I think, has been enhanced by being able to meet virtually.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I think
but being comfortable to grow your network virtually is an art, I do think. Right.
Yes. And then, and we're just becoming more and more of a global economy. And so you have to recognize the power of what that is. Right. And and then we won't go back. We won't go back to where, this is, directed at my president, but we're not going to go back to the point where we're manufacturing everything in the United States. Like, get over yourself. This is not going to happen. It would be nice because, we have some good basis points from the economy and things like that, but I don't think it happens. And so we have to adapt and change a little bit. But this the ability to, do some of that is kind of interesting for sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well,
I believe like the world's about collaboration, right? So I do think it's, whatever we've done globally has been built on some strong collaboration. Would be sad to lose all that because I think there's, great things we've derived from US and UK and other, other European countries. I think it's
for sure.
I think it's you can't get away from the partnerships and collaboration that is necessary. I think it's
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then that's why this whole piece doesn't really work, where it's going in the White House, because it's always been about being the best. As I've said on the show, you want to buy a really expensive watch, it's going to be Swiss. You want to buy a really expensive sports car, it's going to be Italian. You want to buy a luxury car, it's going to be British, Rolls Royce or Bentley. You want to buy, good cheese, it's going to be American. Come on, you gotta give me that one.
Yes,
Italian, Paul. Italian good cheese.
Italians are good. Yeah, they're good at everything. The Italians.
Yes.
But it's this is the world we live in. There's certain
anything to do with food. I'm sorry. Anything to do with food. I'm gonna have to take the crown for that one on the Italian.
Okay. All right.
Just kidding. Yeah.
But yeah. No. But it's true, right? I mean, but you know what? And then I think it's, yes, that exists and there it is. But sometimes we just have to be okay with it. Like, why do we have to, we want to compete. It makes the world a better place. If you're building a better tech company in the UK than one that's here in the US, well, then the US companies need to figure it out, Paul. And we need to, see how we can, and then that makes you better. And competition's great. Competition's awesome.
Good. Competition is amazing. That's why I think that's.
I think that's a great point, Amy. Yeah, it's a great point. It improves because I remember when I first started my career, the company I started with, they were institutional, but they were national. So there was no U.S. acquisitions or going on. We fast became North American and long rates in North America. But in collaborating with and acquiring U.S. portfolios, we kind of merged best practices. Right? Because we learned a lot and they learned a lot from what we did. But I do think the magic of success was bringing both of those practices together to come up with what was great, right? So I still think that it's a blend of good and bad. I went to a NARUM conference and I was one of two Canadians in the room back then. But then as we grew, because NARUM was a U.S. organization, but as we grew, we became more prominent because of, I think, the growth in relationships.
Yes.
And the best practices piece, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. All right. Well, we came to the end of our hour, y'all. Anyway, look at that.
We solved all the world's problems, which is even better this time.
We did. You know what? We should all wear capes every time we're on the show because we're all superheroes trying to solve the world's problems. So very cool. All right. Well, tell people how to get a hold of you. Should they want to? Go ahead, Maria. Maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
Should people want to get a hold of you, Maria? How can they?
Email, text.
Email, LinkedIn, all those great things. Great.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Get a hold of Maria if you want to. Yes. Awesome. And Paul?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can get me at unify.id, or I'll often drinking a pint of Guinness in Waxy O'Connor's or the Devonshire.
Oh, awesome. Well, the next time I go over to the UK, we'll have to grab a pint for sure. We have to, for sure. Awesome.
It'll make a man of you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna be too much fun, Paul.
I know.
I don't do fun, Maria. I don't do fun.
As my dad, who's an old Marine, says, Amy, it'll put hair in your chest. It'll be great. Just do it. It'll put hair in your chest. I'm like, I don't want hair in my chest, Dad. Thanks. All right. I'm Amy Palvido. I'm the CEO of Facilmax, the chair of the U.S. PropTech Council. And we will see y'all next week. This has been way too much fun.
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow. Everybody come
Thanks very much. Nice to see you. Nice to see you both.
Take care, Maria. Love to see you.
Bye.
Bye now.